Hey, it's Kasim with Solutions 8, and in this video, I want to talk to you about Google's smart bidding. Now, here's what's interesting, is it's actually showing quite a bit in the way of signs of life. Google announced recently some enhancements to their smart bidding, and we've been seeing on our end, just with our testing, that some of the enhancements are showing some significant improvement opportunities, especially with Google's recommendation to use broad match and smart bidding. Now, I can't believe that I'm saying this because I've been like the biggest broad match basher in the history of Google Ads. But every 18 months or so, Google comes out and says, "Oh, try broad match in this context," or "Try broad match in this way," and it's always just been a miserable, epic failure. So forgive me for being a little bit jaded. Google came out recently, you've probably seen the videos that I posted, saying try broad match and smart bidding, and so, as skeptical as I am, I'm not an idiot, and I want to make sure that we're on the forefront. And so we started trying broad match and smart bidding, and interestingly, it's showing some really significant signs of life, which is exciting because it means that the machine learning is working. So I wanted to dig in to figure out which facet of this equation was really making the difference. And honestly, I think it's Google announced some enhancements to their smart bidding, and they did that right aligned with this new recommendation to use broad match and smart bidding. So I think the improvements to smart bidding is what's really moving the needle here, specifically with Google's predictive data. So predictive data used to look at the last 7 days from a data standpoint. So we look at the last 7 days and then use that in order to provide data-driven prognostications as to what adjustments need to be made, as far as the campaign settings are concerned. Well, they opened that up to 90 days. So they went from 7 days worth of data to 90. And I have a feeling that that's at least one of the primary driving factors that's really influencing the improvement that we're seeing in the use of Google Smart Bidding. So really kind of exciting. We're starting to begin to see the evolution of some of these more automated features. I realize that I've been not quite the biggest fan in the past. So forgive me for slightly changing my tune. I'm not going to tell you that it's the best thing to send sliced bread just yet. I'm saying that about smart shopping, but I'm now a little bit more receptive to trying some of the things that Google's recommending that we try for this particular reason. Because sometimes they make a recommendation, we try it, and it fails. They just now made a recommendation, we tried it, and it succeeded. And I think that predictive data has been the game changer within the new tool set that they're providing us. So if you have an opportunity and the threshold for pain, try testing broad match keywords along with smart bidding and just see what happens. We've tested it now in our own campaign. We've also tested it with a few pilot clients who have received the disclaimer that this is very exploratory and bound to fail. Again, in an interesting twist of fate, it's performed much better than I expected it to. The disadvantage that we're at is, for whatever reason, and I don't know if this is a coincidence because I don't have enough data for me to say that there's enough consistency here. But what we're seeing with smart bidding is more of our conversions are being attributed to search terms that were not being provided. So Google came out recently and said, we're not going to give you all the search terms. And, they promised it was only going to be very few of the search terms. But when we switched over to broad match with smart bidding, we have seen that I think the day that we looked, we had 6 conversions that day, and 4 of them were to keywords that we weren't being given inside of the search term report. That's scary. And also kind of a little douchey, Google. Like, we paid for the click converted. You can't tell me that, privacy concerns inhibit you from being able to give me that, especially not, 66% of our conversions that day. So I don't know if that has to do with the broad match approach. It's hard for me to say why that would change the percentage of search terms that are being provided. But it's important for me to posit, here. Again, I don't have enough data for me to say that this is definitively true, but I will just say anecdotally, it feels like now that we switched over, or not, we didn't switch entirely, but the campaign that we have running this broad match with smart bidding appears to inhibit the search terms that are being made available. If that does prove to be true, and that ends up being a long-term trend, that would be a really good reason not to use this feature. It's hard because if the feature is working, but in making it work, you have to give up that level of visibility. That's a balance of risks. And at that point, for me, it would just depend on how well it works. Can I make it work just as well without this? And it's just harder, then, I might put in the legwork. But if it takes off, if it has the performance strength that smart shopping has, we'll have no choice. will have to use it. And just like with smart shopping, there's so little visibility in smart shopping. You can't see network placements. But that's the trade-off that you make, because smart shopping works phenomenally well. So if it ends up being the performer that smart shopping is, then we'll end up having to put up with that trade-off. But that'll be really interesting to see a Google Ads ecosystem where you don't have the ability to actually determine where prospects are coming from. That means you have very little ability to conversion optimize yourself. You're now fully reliant on the machine. And the longer that runs, the more dangerous it gets, because in the short term, or with smaller campaigns or smaller spends, you can actually kind of reverse engineer a lot of that. I mean, hell, you could even get down to asking. I ask clients now, like if I'm on the phone with a lead, I'll ask them, hey, do you mind me asking what search term you used in order to find me? And, as you can imagine, that's pretty important to me. But the bigger the campaign gets and the longer that it runs, the further away you get from, being able to put your finger on the pulse, or even intuit what that pulse might possibly be. So something to consider and be aware of if you are going to test this and try this. There are some risks associated with it. You're letting Google take the wheel in some really powerful ways. But, if it makes you more money and you don't care about visibility, then go for it. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. I'm going to link to an article from Search Engine Journal, by the way, that I think is relevant and talks about Google's change in predictive data and some of the enhancements they've made to smart bidding. And hopefully you find that good reading too. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, because if I get 1,000 subscribers, I get to start going live, which should be pretty fun. And you'll get notified every single time I post a video, which is every single day. And it's always this good, sometimes better. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Hit me in the comments if you have any questions, comments, concerns, confessions, or disagreements. I'd love to have somebody push back on some of the things I say. If you don't agree, let me know why. You're probably wrong, but I'd love to know why. Just kidding. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.